I just time wise, I'll be honest with you. I got tired of grading papers. To be honest with you, tired of grading papers, and so opportunities came. I created a curriculum called Tools for Intentional Excellence for 21st Century Leaders.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Nanayaayeboaa podcast. And today I have an extraordinary guest with me, global thought leader, educator, author, and business strategist, Dr. Rubin Cockrell. We were just having a backstage conversation and he just blew my mind. Thankfully, he just blew my mind. My head is still on my neck. So, Dr. Cockrell's life work is about helping people master their own table, turn obstacles into opportunities, and reclaim personal integrity in today's fast changing world. Dr. Rubin Cockrell, welcome. It's an honor to have you on the podcast.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you for the opportunity to be here and the intentional life work that you've been doing um, in terms of in terms of storytelling and empowering people in the village. You know, there's an expression that says um, that it takes a village to raise a child, but if the village is dysfunctional, you raise dysfunctional children. And so, appreciate you being intentional, minimizing the dysfunction, and having that tradition of storytelling and passing on a part of legacy building. So it's great to be here.
Sharing a little bit of your life's journey and the pivotal experiences that shaped you to who you are today.
Yes, I appreciate that. So I was born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio,
Mm,
uh, in Cleveland, Ohio, where LeBron James' famous words, "Nothing is giving, everything is earned," and everything is earned in Cleveland, Ohio. And so had a pretty good upbringing, and matriculated to high school. Went to an all male college prep Catholic high school. Was pretty decent in sports, but I also was involved with. And by the time I was 18, I'd made seven figures. Was good in sports and living really the best of both worlds. And so um, had surgery my senior year, wound up going to Fisk University, and that was my wake up call. I got a call one day from my mom. I had to come back up to Ohio,
mm,
and I was up for 15 to 20 years fed time because of a RICO charge and some other things that happened. And so some people who were a part of that process saw something within me I didn't see within myself, and so I had to pay restitution. However, I was able to do a diversion opportunity where I was able to come back to Fisk University, and if I got in any other trouble, I was going to have to do that 15 to 20 years federal time. And for me, that experience was a stepping stone and a stumbling block. And within that moment of, I got my act together, and that happened right when I was 20. And by the time I was 25, really going on 26, I had 4 degrees, was dean of a university, um, and started my consulting firm. And so I tell people, I've been blessed. I relate from the street to the elite, the classroom to the boardroom.
wow.
And and so having that experience, and fast forward to now, retired professor, taught higher ed 19 years. Having that opportunity, I have 11 books out, and my training consulting company has done work in about 60 countries around the world. And so I've had a experience of working with clientele from the military to the reentry sector, to government, to municipalities, cities, government. Really just had some blessed opportunities to come full circle. And so for me, my mission, personally and professionally, is what I call E to the third power, to help educate, enrich, and enhance people's lives. And in helping people achieve their goals, I naturally hit my own goals, which is serving leadership. And so I try to center everything going on in my life, personally, professionally, and civically, in those arenas during the course of my experiences that I go through.
If I'm permitted to say, you look too young to be a retired professor right now. Mm.
I just time wise, I'll be honest with you. I got tired of grading papers. Uh, to be honest with you, tired of grading papers, and so opportunities came. I created a curriculum called Tools for Intentional Excellence for 21st Century Leaders, and it gave me the opportunity to expand my reach a lot further, including the trainings that I did. And so, I'm big on intentionality, and so when grading becomes a task versus a part of that process, then you got to know your times when to hold and when to fold. And so that experience was a great opportunity. And I never say never. I'll say that, but in terms of that process of time period was a stepping stone into other areas. And so I do a lot of speaking, a lot of training, which I enjoy, to be able to get in and get out, to work with organizations, still work with some universities, come in as a speaker, train their staff and professional executive development, i.e. mine is grading papers. And so, that's part of the reason why. But I'm an educator by heart and businessman by heart. And so to have my brain is one way, half of it the other way. And I try to have my involvements tie into both of those areas.
Yeah. So when you had your students, what part of the teaching did you like the most? We know you don't like grading papers.
Yeah. So what I really liked the most was challenging the students above and beyond the textbook. Because in the textbook, as educators, we teach from the theoretical perspective of the classroom. And so with some of those experiences, where they're learning about theory, certain methodology of why we're doing certain things. However, sometimes what's missing is the practical application of experience. And how do you apply it? How do you apply it to my life in terms of what I'm doing or what I'm looking at doing? And so with those experiences, I really enjoyed challenging the students, bringing in other business professionals, other educators that were cutting edge and challenging our students, creating internship opportunities within our class that were paid and some non-paid. So giving that student, that practitioner space to have the opportunity above and beyond the classroom to take those nuggets and apply it to those lives. And so, now I have an ability to have a student that was in my marketing class. Fast forward, she's senior vice president of lending at a bank, and working with her on another level. But those seeds were planted then in the classroom some years ago to see what she's doing now, and then be able to work with her in another opportunity. Those are the best experiences for me in terms of an educator experience. The other things they have this place, but those type of opportunities I enjoy in the classroom and I have enjoyed. Another thing that I've enjoyed in the classroom is I've created curriculum for various programs that work with our justice served and justice impacted population. And I've loved those opportunities to see a lot of individuals, male, female, as well as juvenile, to get out, to have some progression in life, to make some changes in life. And for me, my experiences weren't by happy chance, but the ability to empower some of those students, to see them move on, become successful in their life, have family, have kids, working for different organizations or working for themselves. Those are the moments as an educator that are priceless, that is a part of letting your living not be in vain.
So,
Mhm.
um, we're facing challenges in this new political and economic climate. What's your take on it from an educator's perspective?
Um, I look at it sometimes, disasters are nothing more than opportunities in disguise. And it's all about perspective. Um, Regardless of what one thinks of DEI or not think of DEI, it's been strapped, it's been pulled. And so I look at it, where do you go from there? And this is the opportunity to be comfortable being uncomfortable and sometimes unlearning learned behaviors, and the opportunity to build strategic, intentional collaborations, where there's meaningful conversation, there are sacrifices, but the opportunity to stretch yourself, uh, and have the gamut of going after different opportunities, or exploring that, 10 plus 0 is not the only way to get to 10. 7 plus 3, it could be 8 plus 2, it could be 6 plus 4, it could be 4 plus 6. So I individually have to be willing to unlearn learn behaviors, but yet too no longer the opportunity of working as the lone wolf. And so building strategic collaborations that traditionally, being comfortable, you wouldn't necessarily create, but being willing to create those opportunities in that space, and be able to do what I call looking at that personal SWOT analysis for yourself, looking at the strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities and threats as an individual, but collectively looking at it within your family, looking at it within your organization, and then being able to identify some resources that you can provide value add to, and what can provide value add to you to help you achieve that why, or that collective why, where you're trying to get to. And so I think one is one having confirmation, affirmation, and validation in their life, and then two, being knowledgeable about a lot of things going on. However, not getting drunk off the news of what's going on, because you can get in a state where it's the expression of paralysis by analysis, and so you have to be really intentional right now in terms of what you may pursue, what you're going after to target, and then create opportunities for others, but also opportunities for yourself. And so there's some challenges. There's definitely some challenges, but yeah, I see opportunities. It's just all about the perspective of how you look and willing to stretch yourself and what state to go after. It may be changing your circle. It may be branching out to others that traditionally you would not come across to work towards some common goals where they can be mutually beneficial. And so for me, that's the perspective that I've taken um, with it, that helps to minimize certain levels of stress or anxiety in other different ways. So that's somewhat how I look at it.
Yeah, it's thank you very much. Thank you. You've provided much insight, and I do hope that the listeners will also learn a little bit from you. It's very valuable insight. So let's get back to you and your books. Now,
Yes.
I love books. If you leave me, my whole bedroom will be a library. And I think that the reason why I love books is that it allows my imagination to take me places. And for persons such as yourself, the kind of books that you write, it's amazing. It's amazing. So
Thank you.
from your curriculum, from making you know from your children's books, it's congratulations on that. So let's talk about those books that you have written. Which of
Yes.
your works makes you feel, which of your works are you most personal about or transformational for you, and why?
Well, for me, it's intentional and transformational for all my books. There's not one pick over the other. I think for me, I wrote them in different elements of life going on, and being intentional. I think that's you asked me in terms of a researcher versus practitioner, and
Yes.
traditionally researchers, they have the whole timeline of being on publishing different things to get
Mm,
tenure and things along that line. For me, I knew that was not the track for me. I knew that I wanted to write and research when I wanted to write research, and it was a timepiece so that I could put up best quality work. So I was not on that traditional timeline. So for me, each of my books are very intentional in life of when I write, in terms of travels, in terms of business dealings, speaking, training, some trends versus one offs that I see in the marketplace, personally, professionally, and civically, and a form of healing,
mm,
a form of birthing,
mm,
a form of extension of myself. Those are the times that I write and have written in terms of the books that I have in the course of my life. And following that path and sticking to that path has allowed me some form of success in terms of the reach with writing the books. And as I mentioned earlier, for me, it's the ability to educate, enrich, and enhance people's lives and helping them achieve their goals. I naturally hit my own goals, which is serving
mm,
leadership.
mm, mm. Thank you. Thank you. Um, so you talk about mastering your own table.
Yes, yes,
Ah, okay.
yeah.
Let's talk about that because I heard the term mastering your own table, and it's like, okay, what does it mean? Like, I really, I haven't gotten the book yet, but I'll get it. I know it's on Amazon because I checked it out.
Well, actually,
There's
they're only you're only able to order them from my website. Amazon, they show it, but it's if you go on my website, that's the only place I have all my books to order,
oh,
and that is by design. So yeah, you can order it off of my website. Yes, everything that I talk about book wise on my website will show you that you can get it there.
okay, good to know.
Yes,
So that I didn't go off track. Good
yes,
to know. So, can you break it down, like what mastering your own table means and what that concept means? And for someone who feels maybe overlooked or stuck or unsupported in their works, what would be the very first step to creating their own table?
Yes, and so Mastering Your Own Table is my latest book that I came out with in March of 2025. So it's my most recent book, and that book, Mastering Your Own Table, it's called, the
Mm-hmm.
full name is Mastering Your Own Table: Transforming Setbacks into Strengths and Creating a Life of Purposeful, Unstoppable Success. And so I wrote that book for several different reasons. And when we look at Mastering Your Own Table, a lot of people uh, heard of the old adage, I want to have a seat at the table. I want to have a seat at the table, have a seat at the table. But sometimes in life, it may be your time, but not your turn.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes in life, you got to subtract in order to make room for new additions in life. And so we may focus in on that table to be with a certain group of people at times of, but there are certain situations at some tables that we're invited but not welcome.
Mm-hmm.
And the worst thing is to be invited to a place and then you're not welcome, and you feel like an oddball in that particular situation. And that could be personal, professional. And so for me, when I look at it, a 24-hour day in terms of mastering your own table, there's 86,400 seconds in a day, 1,440 minutes in a day. And 10% of our day, we have no control over. We have no control over people's opinions, no control over certain things. However, I challenge people, as well as challenge myself, is how can you give 100% to the 90% of the day that you have some sense of control over? Because sometimes we're looking left, we're looking right, and we're giving all our energy to that 10% we have no control over. While there's a hot plate of opportunity, we're looking left, right, that hot plate is turning warm, warm plate is turning cold, and then sometimes by the time we look around, someone has snatched that opportunity and ran with it because we were focusing in on majoring on minor things. And so sometimes we got to look at that table. How do you want to design? What's the type of structure dealing with mission, vision, purpose? What's accessories in terms of your table? Who in terms of sitting at your table, who are assets versus liabilities? What accessories do you want? What type of strength on the table side do you have? That you want? Do you want the table to bend down, or do you want the table to be able to flip back up so you can have more additional people at that table? And so being able to focus in on really investing into self personally and professionally, and then with that mission of why, aligning yourself with the right, as I mentioned, assets versus liabilities of people of different ethnicities, of different backgrounds, who may become your personal advisory board or personal professional advisory board that works and assists with you in different areas of your life. And being able to focus in on those key pieces that allow you to build that table of stability in your life, and to be able to pivot and shift and pivot, as I say. And so when you look at today's times, you look at certain things happening, the focus can be wrong, and we waste a lot of time, because time is the biggest currency.
Mm-hmm.
You can't get that back. And think about, we all have how much we've wasted time on dead weight, personally and professionally. For
Oh my
me,
goodness.
having this experience, too, just I talk about some experiences in personal, professional life. Having one of my children, born with their eyes closed, and dealing with that experience, and dealing with divorce, and dealing with other experiences, and looking at how do you go through those experiences that were setbacks and turn those into stepping stones where you're able to progress forward. How you're able to deal with grief and realize you don't get over it, but you learn to grow through it daily, and having those experiences, just being really intentional about that space that you keep around you. And so those are, in terms of mastering your own table, those are some of the things I talk about. We talk about, the ability, the power of purpose, embracing fear and failure, and how to fail forward versus just fail. And then we talk about, the discipline of daily habits, cultivating resilience, building strong relationships, you know, harassing the mindset of mindfulness and taking time out to reflect, on the course of your day, and then overcoming obstacles and various challenges. And then just the art of decision making. I talk about some nuggets that I use and experiences of challenges, failures going through, and things I learned to be able to help someone else um, in the process of young, older, and different. And so that is what mastering your table is about.
Oh, geez. That is a lot, but it's not a lot. And the reason why I say that is that you give us all these skills and tools to master our own tables. At the end of the day, it's up to us,
Yes.
the listeners, to say, I'm ready, and then take it one bite size at a time. I know when you listen to persons like Dr. Cockrell, it's like he's got it all down packed and he's just saying it, it's coming out of a flow. And the reason why I could say that is that I also have my challenges.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt. I also had my challenges. Discipline is one of them. I have to talk to myself a whole lot to discipline myself. And even, for instance, sending you those questions, I had to say, listen, it's getting closer. You got to reach out. You got to let him know we're still on with this interview. Create the questions format. Let it, give it to him. So it's always, that discipline, that consistency and persistency. Do I always get it right? No.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yes.
it's a continuous it's continuous thing that you do.
And a lot of times in these situations, it's not a right or wrong. It's just knowing where you are
Yeah.
in life, which is most important.
Yeah. And at the end of the day as well, if you want to get to somewhere, you got to how do we call it? Start the journey.
Yes.
Nobody is going to start the journey for you. So you got to start the journey. And I'll say, in speaking about starting the journey and having this conversation with Dr. Rubin, how I got through to you, and then I saw who your publisher was, and I connected with your publisher. So your publisher and one of your publishers, Timothy Bond. So I actually interviewed him as well. So this is the beautiful thing about when you start and you set your own table or you master your own table, all the pieces start falling together, but you got to do the work. If you don't do the work, the work ain't gonna do you.
Yes. Yes.
So let's go to doing business, because you're an entrepreneur, you're a
Yes.
businessman. Okay. In this economic climate, which is so challenging, what mindset or strategies have helped you stay, you know, above?
Well, a couple of things as I was mentioning earlier. For me,
Mhm.
um, I always knew I was called to work with people of various ethnicities and backgrounds, and so for me, one of the things that's helped me as a differentiator is because of my experiences of traveling the globe.
Mhm.
I work with people of different ethnicities and backgrounds because of different rooms that I am in, from education to business. I have my own cigar line, and so with these different experiences, the
I
ability
was
to be,
wondering. Okay.
yeah, the ability to be open, the ability to interact with people of different ethnicities and backgrounds, and so with it, has afforded the opportunity to not just work with one set of people. And so being in different spaces, I have uh, this personal professional equation that I operate off of, and that is um, how can I make an impact, be influential, create incomes, plural, equals operating in purpose based upon core values and principles, and be profitable, which equals social entrepreneurship. And so I try to center myself in different things along that line in that space, and then keep, progression, keep growing, and challenging myself, and then just being open to pivot and shift and open to different opportunities that align in that area. Is it easy? No, it is not.
Mhm.
However, being intentional about the work, working to create legacies, for me is what keeps me humble, keeps me hungry, and looking at where the puck is going versus where the puck is at.
Mhm. 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 Thank you.
Thank you.
Um, you spoke about values earlier on, keeping with your core values, your values when you're working. And I'm big on values.
Mhm.
I'm really big on values, most especially in this day and age, and as you know, in the business circle or even within our personal lives. I'm going to throw it out there. What are your three top core values?
Uh, Three top core values is trust, consistency, and execution.
Mm, okay. So that leads me to my next question. There's a decline in values and integrity in society. We can see it.
Yes.
And even with the man on top of the, you know, the country where you are, the values are very questionable. So I'll say that, say, how can an individual, most especially, let's focus on the young people, right? Begin to rebuild their personal core values.
Yeah. Now, well, that's a good segue. Part of the reason why I wrote The Consequences of Being Trifling. Part of the reason why I wrote that book, the book before Mastering Your Own Table. You know, no,
You were just waiting for me.
you just set me up for alley hoop. I was just waiting. It's different for everyone.
Hmm.
I mean, the first chapter of that book is When Leadership Calls, Will You Be Ready? And
Hmm.
so, a lot of times, um, getting back to those core values and principles, as I mentioned earlier, it takes a village to raise a child. But if the village is dysfunctional, you raise dysfunctional children. For a lot of times, in my experiences with children, and the reason why part of I wrote those children's books is because sometimes there's lack of exposure in their space, their environment, and so they have to see something different. Um, See something different. And that's why when I was telling you as an educator, I like the practical application of, you're learning about this theory of a business person in the book, but let me bring someone in who's doing it so
Hmm.
that you can be exposed, ask questions, work on internship opportunities, job opportunities, those experiences, because you can then realize, what, I've been thinking 9 plus 1 is 10, but now I got exposure. I got 6 plus 4, I got 7 plus 3, I got 4 plus 6, I got 5 plus 5, which opens the doors of
Hmm.
opportunity where you see some things that are a trend versus a one-off. And I think that
Yeah.
is key for our young people in terms of providing exposure. So when you look at early childhood education, a lot of a key word they say is character education, teaching those character skills, those core values earlier on that transcend through those children becoming adults. And so a lot of times as adults, we act out of what was in place or not in place as children,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
that happens a lot. And so we have to provide that exposure much earlier on, to teach about those experiences with our youth, but then self-check ourselves: do we have those things in place? Because the youth of today, they say that I'd rather see a sermon than hear a sermon any day. You can
Hmm.
talk to me till you're blue in the face, but what are you doing? What are the fruit that you're bearing? If you're not
Hmm.
bearing fruit, why the hell should I listen to you?
Hmm.
That's the reality of it. It's not necessarily being disrespectful. It's saying you're saying this, but what practical application are you showing to be that example?
It's so amazing you say that, because in my experience as a preceptor as well, when I get those new nursing students for the next few weeks that they are with me before they get into the workforce, I always ask them, that's the first question I ask them: what are your core values?
Mm-hmm.
And I see that blank look, like they've never heard the word or the term before.
Yes.
And so I tell them, Google it up. So they Google it up. I say, okay, you go look at five and see which one best, speaks to your spirit. And then the next day, come back and we will go through, and you tell me how you utilize that in your nursing practice. Because you know what, the core values are the foundations for society, for our cultures,
Mm-hmm.
etc. Without those, we are absolutely nothing. We are
Yes.
absolutely nothing. So I am very big on core values and teaching those core values right there before they get into the field. And that's why sometimes we have all these human beings who are caring for other human beings who don't have empathy, who have no business being there.
Yes. Yes.
So So let's get into mentorship. Do you do mentorship as well?
I do. I do. I do. I call quality versus quantity mentorship,
Mm,
because for me, whatever I get involved in, I like to under promise and over deliver versus over promise and under deliver. And
mhm,
so, um, with that mentorship, I like to be intentional, um, for those individuals that I do mentor in the various areas, as I mentioned, of their life, because I've known over the years of good and bad and challenging experiences being mentored, um, that there were some nuggets that I learned that I wanted to apply in the aspect. But that is a part of giving back. That's a part of lifting as you climb. And I think that is very important to be able to do that mentorship piece. So, yes, I do.
mhm. So for a young individual who is considering, getting a mentor, what would be your best advice in as to how to recognize a mentor who is worth following or connecting or
Yeah, well, I would say one for them to do some
Mhm,
self work, and depending upon what age and where they are in life, in terms of where they are personally and professionally, and where they think they want to go, personally and professionally. And as I mentioned, you can have multiple mentors. You
mhm,
know, some mentors only good at various aspects of your life, and that doesn't diminish who they are, but they're only good in this aspect of your life, and that's okay. And so the ability to be able to identify that, uh, organically as it happens, and then sometimes it happens impromptu, where
mhm,
you have experiences of. So remaining open, um, in various areas of your life. And then some mentors you have in certain peaks, and they can only take you to certain peaks because they're only at certain peaks. And
mhm,
that's nothing against them.
mhm,
But then you kind of pivot and shift in that area of. So it's starting off at certain places, identifying where you may want to go
mhm,
and what to strive towards. And then, um, seeking out people maybe necessarily around you or others that are not, or doing research because you got access to the internet and other stuff, being able to research, what
mhm.
is a mentor,
Yeah.
and some folks that you may want to have exposure to, and then ask.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. Excellent. Great. The hidden curriculum.
Yes, yes, we've been talking about it. You just didn't know. We've been talking about it.
Oh,
Yeah, we've been talking about it. Listen, I intertwine all my books into everything that we talk about. It's the hidden curriculum. This is my first book.
the hidden curriculum.
Yes.
The recap for listeners who are just tuning in or who missed it like I did and was just waiting to hear under the hidden curriculum what it is.
Yeah, so the hidden curriculum, life learning lessons you won't learn in a classroom. And this kind of
Yes.
goes back to our early conversations when we were talking about, experiences in education and
Mm-hmm,
teaching, and, um, as both educators,
mm-hmm,
providing a syllabus to our students. These are your core objectives, these are your timelines, these are dates that things are due, and you know provide your best quality of work, and there's a correlation to what grades you may get.
yeah.
However, when you look back at the reflection of us as educators and experiences of that, some of the greatest experiences, some of those stepping stones and stumbling blocks that I was telling you about was
Mm-hmm,
were those hidden curriculum moments beyond the classroom as a practitioner that you learn, that you grow from. And so when you look at curriculum, the hidden curriculum, chapter one is life as a hustle, how we hustle physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally. And the word hustle gives a negative connotation, but we go through it daily. I talk a little bit about that. And then chapter two is talking about, a lot of times in our society, we talk about, you got to operate outside the box, outside the box. But I believe there's a third element of thinking. And when we look at our true change agents and the innovators in society, that's thinking without any boxes at all. So that if you have boxes, you create them. And that
mm-hmm,
is working at a certain mind frame and mindset of where you realize that, um, your mindset is thinking, you know what? I'm imagining the possibilities of success versus the fear of failure,
mm-hmm,
and mindset and going about certain things. And so, that's a little bit about, that, thinking about boxes at all. And then chapter 3 of the hidden curriculum is learn to lead yourself before you can lead others. And there's a lot of world of wounded leaders.
Yeah.
And those spirits, if we don't deal with it at a stepping stone level, stepping stones turns to a pebble, pebble to a rock, rock to a boulder that hinders our personal and professional growth and success rate. And so I talk about that. And then chapter 4 is one of my, I have to say, probably one of my favorite chapters in this book. And it asks us this, the one fundamental question: are you around people who tolerate you or celebrate you?
Mm.
And you actually have to do some activities of folks who are tolerating you and some folks who are celebrating you. And then chapter 5 talks about stay ready, you never have to get ready, and ready for prepare for opportunities. Um, as I mentioned earlier, sometimes it's your time, but not your turn. But when it's your time and turn, it exponentially makes up for anything that you thought you may have lost. And so being prepared. And so those are some of the key areas, the chapters within that book, experience wise, the practitioner side of life, that I talk about in that book.
Oh, that is wonderful. Wonderful. We talk about these days, you hear in leadership circles talking about emotional intelligence, emotional intelligence. What
Yes.
does it mean?
Uh, it depends on the day. Um, it depends on the day. But really, when you look at emotional
Mhm.
intelligence, really, as I mentioned earlier, it's the ability, one, to be self-aware of where you are in life, and then being able to identify the resources that can help you become stronger in those areas or to help you in some of your challenge areas. And it's really situational awareness, being in tune. As I said earlier, some things are not a right or wrong answer, but me being intentional and having that positively selfish time, I like to say, to see where am I? How am I feeling?
Mhm.
The experiences in my life, are they a one-off or are they a trend? Because I got to approach it differently if it's a one-off versus these are trends that are going on. I may need to make some adjustments in preparation for the future. And so being mindful of having that mindfulness time to identify your emotions, your feelings, and realize that duality is real.
Mhm.
That there are experiences that happen in life, like grief, where you could be an extrovert but not want to be around people.
Yeah.
You can be highly functional and highly depressed at the same time. Once again, it's not a right or wrong, but it's identifying those areas and then realizing what resources do I need to assistance, help in those various areas of your life. And so, that emotional intelligence is really key because as you were mentioning, with the preceptor programs, that there are a lot of times where we have the technical skills to do something, but there's a lack of communication skills,
Mhm.
decision making skills, that empathy, those
Mhm.
areas of, and so we're transactional versus transformational
Yeah.
because between transformational transactions happen,
Yes.
and so knowing those difference of not being one sided, but having multiple skill levels to achieve your goals.
Beautiful. So, time for a quick lightning round.
All
You
right,
ready?
let's wrap it
Okay.
up. Yeah,
Yep. Morning or night owl? Morning person or night owl?
morning person.
One book that changed your life.
One book that changed my life was The Art of War.
Ah, Sansu. Okay. Best advice you ever received?
Best advice I ever received. Ooh, that's a loaded question. I think that if you, my grandmother, if you take care of if you work your plan, you got to work your plan and plan your work at the same time.
Come again. You got to work your plan and plan
Yeah,
your work.
you got to work. You got to work your plan so you can plan. You got to plan your work so you can work your plan.
Oh, wow. These people, I don't know how they get all these nuggets, but
Yes.
damn, that's something. One thing you do every day without fail.
I have some time, some meditation time. I have typically every day. Um, it varies in leaps and bounds, but I take some time out every day.
Hmm. Hmm. If you could have dinner with any leader, dead or alive, who would it be?
Ooh, I got a round table of folks, but uh, if it had to be one person, I would say Malcolm X.
Great. Okay. Dr. Cockrell, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your journey,
Yeah.
and your heart with us today. But before we wrap up, where can my audience find you, your books, most especially the children's books, the children's literature? Where can we also find all those
So
information?
the
Do you
only
have a
place you
copy
can,
with you or
yes, you can
copies?
order my books here, my children's books. I
Yes.
had them ready for you to see, all here.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And so all my books you can get at www.dr, another R, cockrell.com. And that's where, if you go on that page, it says get inspired. You can pick up all my books individually or in a bundle. That's the only place you can pick up my books because I have access and control of books going out through that channel.
Excellent.
And you
Excellent.
can connect all my social media channels and connections are there as well.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for saying yes. Thank you for giving us this time and attention. And I must truly tell you that I appreciate you. I appreciate everything that you're doing. Don't stop. I don't know why nature connected us, but at some point in time, we will further the work that you and I are doing on a bigger and greater platform. Thank you
That
so
would be
much.
awesome. And thank you for the opportunity to be here, to be able to share a little bit about my story, experiences, and the work that I'm doing. And kudos to you reaching out and look forward to connecting in the near future.
Amen.
Splice Original.